SheerLee here with SheerLee this moon. Now, we have been having a new moon in Capricorn, and now is the little bit of an aftermath, but Venus is still closing cycle with Pluto. Mars hour, moon day. Mars is in a bisextile with Saturn and Uranus, and today I had a lovely, lovely time with that because I was listening to the Knitting Cult Lady, and that's just amazing. I have Mercury, Mars, and knitting is just it's basically this thing you do with your hand. And she said, I need to, so I would not stab people. Anna Mars 22, and she's a military personnel, has U.S. military, um, basically deciding, she's basically the devil advocate to what cannot be done in terms of military operations. So that she would be at the junctures where she would say, well, not really possible to invade Greenland. Not me, not me, Knitting Cult Lady. I don't have the ability to assess that. Um, and basically, when the army can't do something or believes that they won't be able to do something, it's considered illegal, according to her. So, if I got it right. So, then I was walking, just suddenly walking almost the entire city in places that I never seen before. It was really, really exciting. Um, and confronted a business. The name is Rimona Business. And normally I would really love to have like a positive advertisement, but they used wave-based technologies to harass me when I came to welcome them when they opened the business. So that had to be, I mean, the clients had to know, because that means that they would target the clients in much the same way, but taking it from the small end case to the big end cases is the weirdness about business targeting clientele. Because I was basically a prospective client coming to bless the business, but they came at me with things that they could only have known using wave-based technologies. And those things were threatening, harassing, and very trafficky, which tells me that it's probably something global where businesses are required to do that to basically clients. And I know that there are a lot of places where a business has to be informant, which is why I don't currently charge for astrology readings because of that. And I was thinking about this woman in the north that just came, and she had a bottle of some like gasoline in her business, and she took it to the city center, and everybody was supporting her because people were sick of something. So a lot of stuff, really interesting bisextile of Mars, Saturn, and Uranus. We had the Saturn, we had the long duration, we had the military or boundaries asserting issues, and the structure. Moon is 7 degrees Aquarius, and Jupiter is 18 degrees Cancer. So this is where toxic beliefs, or it could be toxic limiting beliefs, or okay, a lot, and it brings a lot of discussions, particularly from the generation. I was thinking about how neurodivergent people, they don't have the nuance of seeing, let's say, I don't know, a gasoline bottle and then going to pick where. I was just thinking, I was at the previous property and I was making some tea, and I put one of the tea bottles down. I hope they weren't thinking it's gasoline, because I put one of the tea bottles down so that if there are people that, I don't know, that don't have a place to stay or whatnot, that they will be having something to drink, or just as a a good omen to maintain a property. Because, okay, if you know, if you think about it, people don't have a place to stay and so on and so forth. And if they have some food, if they have something, they wouldn't want to ruin that. And that's juxtaposed to those nuances that were really around power, and they were breeding an entire generation or generations of completely neurodivergent people, people that don't get clues. And I'm one of the people that don't get clues. Okay, I had and a lot of neurodivergent people are like that. And this is why those people that were really used to the nuance get themselves really entangled up by exposing really, megalithic stuff. It ends like, what am I supposed to do with that information? Well, I guess I should warn people. Attend to political assassination prevention. Maybe it's to see if I would prevent a bombing. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. And but our younger generation are even more neurodivergent. And that would be, if they would have seen a mafia boss, they would have bumped his head or something. Just because it's kind of like, what if you comment these neurodivergent people with power, they can be very aggressive. And as children, I mean, you wouldn't know. Um, so fascinating bisextile. Thinking about the intergeneration and how the world is inevitably changing, and those that think, oh, it's going to change to the past, it's going to change to, well, Saturn in Aries can bring that, but also people could be idealizing the past. So, for example, as women, we were always taught that, yeah, women fought so hard for feminism and so on and so forth. I had a Twitter friend back when it was Twitter, I think, and she was a nurse, and she was also doing constellation type of channeling and so on. One of the things she said, women ancestors would tell her, women don't poison the husband like they used to. If a husband was abusive, he would get poison to the table. So, and then she'd wear black, be a widow, and nobody wants to be to get the next portion of poison, so they wouldn't mess with that. Um, so, so those things are also kind of a part of the past. Um, and at the same time, there's something incredibly futuristic about Uranus Sedna in Gemini. And people are going to they're not just going to want sovereignty, they're going to act on this in a way that stands the test of time. If I think about people with Saturn in Aries, I think Mariah Carey. She escaped freaking Tani Motola, I don't know what. The big mafia boss of the record companies. Basically, she was a woman that lived her life in her own standard in a freaking death cult, which was a part of Gladio because she was also doing black music. So, Saturn is not the happiest in Aries. Okay, it's considered fallen in Aries, but we should not underestimate how the resilience of a Saturn Aries that wants to be sovereign. (2026) it means Saturn was last in Aries in 1998. and that would be to 1998 to 9/11. It is 9/11. On human trade is 9/11. So, and now here, we understand what happened in during Saturn in Aries. Now we say, oh, the world has changed since all the security stuff, um, border control, um, yeah, it has. At the same time, how should I say that? I think not too many people wanted to apply for an American passport in the aftermath of 9/11. Um, I'm saying the immediate aftermath. Of course, it's been 28 years since, and we are in another time where people are not really looking for a green card. But, okay. Um, but it's a civil war clock, and how many countries is also scheduled to have civil war clock? And Pluto in Aquarius in the fifth house for Israel. So I know Venus is about to close the cycle with Pluto. And yet the moon is growing, so it means that as she opens the cycle with Pluto, the moon is also growing, and I'll really wait to see in the coming days, because it means that the issues of Venus, of women in power, particularly around science and religion, um, but also in the face of toxins that affect fertility or even cause cancers, um, is going to be bigger and bigger. Okay, there's something about Venus, Pluto, women in power, women versus power, women and power, women in power. Aquarius, science, astrology, occult, ideology, um, global social movements, architecture, and basically moon growing. It means that women want more power. Okay, particularly around topic of religion, even orthodoxy. Okay, people would go and ask, why are there no women in the rabbinical orthodoxy, for example, particularly when they think to decide about abortion. Now, good thing, bad thing, who knows? Okay, maybe women would be even worse. Like, I really don't know. But definitely women would want more power. Here it can be within a decentralized traditional organization. Um, and we could have both women that have toxic beliefs about power, and women that want to stand in power in the face of toxic beliefs about women. Now, here's another thing. Venus and Pluto is always the power of the voice. And there are certain social groups where there's a lot of nuance when one will tell another to okay, and then the other one is supposed to respond to that okay. Venus Pluto doesn't respond to that okay, but it also brings that okay, come on, let's wrap this, let's close it, okay, don't talk about it. It's exactly the type of transit that brings those power relations where Venus here changes the way she sees standing in her power, but it's also about her voice and what is accepted, what is not accepted by Venus. The language of power is up to an update. Particularly those that threaten in secret could be confronting a very public display of basically the backlash to their actions. Okay, for example, if I take the story of this business, coffee place, and again, it's just one business, very likely that's the structure of new businesses that they require people to harass people there because they want to build trauma bond with relations with the clients, or cult-like businesses. So that they can traffic the people. If they do that to clients or prospective clients, but they probably do that to employees. So if I think about something was very, kind of this gaslighting was supposed to be this covert issue or something that only one would understand, those type of things. And I just went there today and I was like, entire restaurant full and so on and so forth. And I'm like, yeah, they bothered, they harassed someone. I don't know, it's Ramona Coffee. Because what they done in secret comes out in public. Now, it's not just, this is one business, but that can be many businesses that do that to people. And that's basically closing up a cycle, because I think that happened some months ago, if not a year ago. Yeah, they were just opening. I came to bless them. And those things, that's a no-go. And if I see that, it means a lot of women will say, particularly in relation to technology, if the technology is done by people that still hold toxic beliefs about women, so it's not an innovation. Technology can be good, okay? But the question is also, how is it used, and what is the system of beliefs that is the context to that technology? And this is where I think the Pluto-Venus cycle is going to really be significant. Now, I said what I said. Everything that moves through Aquarius right now is a telltale to the eclipse that we're going to have in February. So I talked about the sensitive point about innovation, which is obviously innovation is because something was missing. And, when I was in between houses, many times, if people would ask or something or whatnot, I would say I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, because being startup oriented or entrepreneur oriented, everybody supports, everybody supports a dream. Now, like thinking today, because talk about astrological considerations for declarations of independence. There was a beautiful, honest video about a guy that did it. They did the Denmark invading Greenland video. It says Trump can't do it because we've already invaded Greenland. By the way, I was wrong about Greenland. They have a government. Okay, they share a king, but they have different governments. And Greenland didn't want to mine the uranium minerals, as far as I know. So, what can I say? Life is challenging. Um, and as we think about what's missing, we also, again, it's kind of like everybody supports entrepreneurship. It's a lovely thing. But then they understand, okay, how do we explain the fact that we have a missing thing, which is free of ritual abuse country? And not only that, because one of the things that was shown was basically, a country that has some sort of governance and would have to be in diplomatic relations. So, so I was like, well, I'm the one that doesn't run an extortion call to blackmail you. Well, how are we going to explain that to the people? Because this is where we run into a problem. Because to me, if I say this business, of course, in the first spark of a moment, yeah, I was mad because I dealt with those weird technologies and harassment, and then I was mad. But then the moment after, I'm like, okay, so if it's one business, it's all businesses. It's all new businesses. If I saw it as a private person, it has nothing, I don't know the owner, I don't know nothing. That means it happens to many people. And why would they do that? Well, it's the same techniques with gaslighting, testing the waters and seeing if they get a reaction. If they don't get a reaction, they think, oh, next time this person comes to drink coffee, we try another thing. Because that's how they work. They create trauma bonds. And those people that align with that are people that are so dissociated, and then those people would have an awakening that was abusive and so on and so forth, um, which is a serious backlash. But that's basically the organizational culture. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking, hey, the voice of women. I also saw a doctor that showed um, what to do with. Actually, I should show this video. So midway into watching Knitting Cult Lady and Hey White Women. Love the conversation between BIPOC women to white women. Like we have, I don't know where would I stand. I'm laughing that I'm white in America, but we would have a lot to learn, particularly from BIPOC people. It's not like we have a lot to learn from each other. No, we don't. We have a lot to learn from BIPOC people because they dealt with that dumb fuckery way before it even got white. So, of course, if we're going to talk about ritual abuse in the elite and so on and so forth, then Anya Weck meets, I don't know, Shaina Conde. That would be an interesting conversation. So, okay. Um, And this is definitely that's a conversation where really people have um, to learn from each other. Now, let's take a look at Dr. Catherine Horton. So she basically became targeted as a scientist. I saw, except for me, at least 2 cases just these 2 days of people that became or that dealt with targeting individuals' issues because of their research. And people are like, come on, SheerLee, every single thing you do every single thing you do challenges the fundamentals of the universe. I'm like, okay. Um, but that's but there are other people that also deal with that, and this doctor is one of them. And she turns to basically to healthcare personnel and tells them about the new technologies that are used to harass people, wave-based technologies, and the tinfoil is yes, Pluto is in Aquarius. Pluto is in Aquarius, and that's just life. So I guess I'm gonna see some more women scientists standing in their power in the face of weird technology used by people with toxic beliefs. And that's going to be a growing voice or growing women power in technology or something of that sort. Um, okay, still waiting to see what will be tomorrow. Venus is going to conjoin Pluto as a different degree. So a lot of women tend to lose their voice a little bit next to Pluto Venus cycles, and it delves into the deep psychology and even self rejuvenation behind the voice. And the many deeply taboo technological things that were done, okay, to basically it's also to do with the sex trafficking and so on and so forth. Technologies that were used to that, toxic beliefs, because it juxtaposed people from completely different origins. And I don't mean just like origin lands, or it's just like, um, the juxtaposition of, people that expect the world to be more free, more sovereign, and then people that were waiting for this time to oppress women or something. And and that is, it's a very weird type of juxtaposition. It's the same thing that we get when people are either in hospital or even in jail um, or even in the army or in a new school or refugees, mainly refugees. But think about the war with Iran. We're probably scheduled for another one. Then, you go down to the shelter, and that's basically, you meet whoever is there, and you're a part of whoever is there. So You meet them, they meet you. Each person has their own dumbfuckery. Each stress response are completely different. One person cannot have the door closed. One person cannot have the door open. Um, if a missile drops on the place, doesn't matter if it's closed or open. Everybody doomed. Um, and and that's just how people are, like, really from completely different perspectives of the world. And as conflictual as those meetings are, sometimes people run into people, and how should I say that? When it was just starting with the Me Too, we had a dean that tried to traffic his TA. This is my phrasing. In his phrasing, he was having romance on campus. I saw it as an intergenerational issue, and I let him know how he's being perceived, and the times are changing. I also noticed the structural issue where both he couldn't express himself, but also the woman that he tried to traffic couldn't express herself. And then, of course, you would get mad at him, not just for what he did, that for him was romance on campus, and she was scared for her life, for a very good reason, by the way, with all these weird codes. But also about the structure. If the structure silences her, there's no conversation. People don't get to, say what they have on their mind, say what they have on their heart, and then find a boundary that actually works. Whether it's in war or in court or in whatever, even when people go to jail or whatnot, essentially that's the essence. Then he said to me, with those things, you have to turn directly to the president of the university. Meaning the fact where I was dealing with the trafficking ring. and and that's just life, because um, people are going to go in this world where everybody kills everybody and drains their energy. Like, eventually there is nothing more to kill and there is nothing more to drain. And even when you talk about cloning, like, it even got that to that point, because if you think about it, several kilos of apple is not the nutrients of one apple. So even when they think about cloning people, they better think like those apples, because there's not going to be nourishing. Don't tell me, SheerLee, that's bizarre. Ritual abuse is horrifying. And they do have unregistered births just for those horrifying things. Um, so that's another thing that happened. And Sun sextile Neptune, which is a lovely, somewhat poetic. I was just spending nice time in the garden listening to the birds. Somewhat poetic time. Um, I love the harmonious aspects of Sun and Neptune, because this is where we can really view things with grace. Um, Again, it's an opportunity to view things with grace. It's an opportunity to remediate things. It's an opportunity to have better relations between egos. And I think that that opportunity is something that people need to make the most of. Okay, because when the Sun conjoins Neptune, um, that Sun conjoining Neptune can be the mythical mafia father figure is discovered as a person that did traffic people and children and molested children and so on and so forth. So, and this is where someone could fall from grace, let's say. Um, mm, mm, mm. Mercury applying to sextile Neptune. Again, in itself incredibly poetic. Of course, it's Capricorn, it's Saturn sign. This decan of Capricorn can be a tower moment. Okay, in fact, it was. Because we climb to the top of the mountain, or alternatively, we've built a mountain, we've built a corporation, we've built something. Does it go 9/11? Or does it become a bigger conglomerate? Um, and when Pluto was leaving Capricorn, every time we have a big stellium in Capricorn in this decan, we need to think about when Pluto was there. Because it's the resonance, it's like the aftershocks. The topic of the father figure. Okay, a person that molests children and infants and so on and so forth can birth his own assassin. Um, I knew a guy who was born from rape and killed his mom's rapist, which means he's dead. Um, and that is okay. That's what I mean with that deacon. It's a very very challenging one because Capricorn is at the top of the mountains. It wants to be appreciated in a traditional way, but it's confronted with its own foundations. This is where we would have, let's say, an earthquake that tests the foundations. Can this building or structure sustain an earthquake? Living in a country where none of the buildings can sustain. We have, in this region, we have an earthquake, a big earthquake every 100 years or so. The last one was about 100 years ago. Um, in fact, when it was war with Iran, the first notification was an earthquake. It wasn't an earthquake; it was a political one. Um, but that's basically, and then I went downstairs and said, "Mom, earthquake." I don't know what was good. It's. I researched earthquakes for I think a semester and something, because somebody woke up with an invasion and I came with my Feynman stuff. Feynman stuff. Um, so, and then I tried the astrological explanation, and then I was like, well, the reason nobody looks at those things is because they bomb things and something is described as an earthquake. Um, while the astrological compositions are definitely predictive, there's a Dutch person, a Dutch scientist that looks into that. Is doing exactly what I was thinking to do, but I'm so happy that somebody else is doing that because it's so much detailed work. And a Slavic astrologer. I think Roman Kolev is looking into that as well. So, or and Trifon. So I don't know if Roman Kolev or Trifon or both. Um, but that is, I just noticed that nobody looks at that. And I said, well, if nobody looks at that scientifically because the researchers are afraid, so it's something like chaos theory, so we should look at that. Kind of like if nobody buys Greenland, but in academia. And in favor of humanity, which is even worse. um, so, what are we expecting? The sun tomorrow is entering the Aquarius stuff. I wanted to talk a little bit about Israel. So the eclipse would be in the fifth house for Israel. Today we had something beyond tragic. It was basically a kindergarten that was overly crowded. There were like 50 children in one house, Orthodox neighborhoods. And no, because the rest of the real estate is occupied with human trafficking, so they didn't have. Um, and there was a gas leak. Unfortunately, this B6 is is about gas leak. Um, Uranus is gas, Neptune is leak, and Jupiter toxins. Yikes! Jupiter toxins in sign of Cancer, which means in that case children. Which I didn't see because it's a structure to do with children in Cancer. It's a kindergarten. Um, Moon in Aquarius. It was a big group of children, and a lot of them died because of a gas leak, some toxic gas leak. They did not have scent. Um, People with suicide ideation don't. This is not heaven. I don't know what was this gas. Um, this is a Gen Z friendly. This is a Gen Z friendly. And I was thinking about with all the ritual abuse that's happening, there's just literally euthanasia, and everybody knows that needed to be said. Okay, it was like, yeah, oh, what happened to these children? Billions of children around the world, like they died in their sleep. But unfortunately, This combo, and Jupiter is going to be for quite a while in on 80 degree. This combo is susceptible. This is fifth house of Israel, and it was quite. What? How should I say that? I remember there was an issue with gas leak in the previous B6 but this is um, it is a tragedy, and again, it's so much so that I don't know how many of these children were saved from basically ritual abuse. But that just emphasizes on how tragic it actually is. Um, yeah, more things, more things to say about this upcoming time. Um, Uranus in Gemini, Israel has already had, you know, declaration of independence into a war, but it was also a little bit of a civil war as well. Okay, it was not like, oh, this was the War of Independence. Um, we would see it in later developments in the Uranus squares and so on, but Israel basically had civil wars. It hadn't had a big one, and we're probably scheduled to one, but not unlike United States. It was a Declaration of Independence, war, and then internal war. Um, and now people are like, wait a second, does that mean we're going to have another independence war? I think we are having one. Um, and this is prompting also a war regarding things that came up, and this is what prompted me to press record actually. Israel, since at least October that I seen it, 2023, there have been a lot of voices re-challenging the notions, the foundation of Israel and the association of the templars. Um, on the global level, like I said, Pluto ingress into Aquarius, whoever can get out of the lodges, um, save themselves from a lot of persecution. And with all the exposures around the ritual abuse and stuff like that, that maybe later in history become, oh, it was blood libel, but those are not the time where people have the privilege of swiping under the rug the actual um, crimes against humanity that are not unique to any secret society or another, but those are not swiped under the rug in those times. And the fact that we're delving into basically the beginning of a Pluto opposition and Uranus return for Israel, which also means a Neptune opposition when Neptune ingresses to Aries, okay? And those are decades. This is decades, 2 decades basically. Um, it's a different context to this type of civil war. What is exactly the context? I don't know, but it has a persecution of the Templars flavor to it. And this is a part of what prompted me to press record, because I was like, I need to contemplate on the chart of Israel, because the foundations of Israel is so intertwined with the Templars. And that has been a point of pride for many, but has been challenged. Um, and again, people want human rights. They don't, civilians. They want to have their human rights. They're not They're not living in slaves and masters' domain. And those that see it as, and here's the thing, the Templars could have had a stand here because they were, to some degree, the cooperative. I know about all the Palestinian this, and what, okay, but let's say if it was the 66 families that were tossing seashells to see which family gets which land in Tel Aviv, those stories are gone. If they toss the same shells, the Shell is a gas company today, and it has to toss bombs to implement. Okay, back there they had to build infrastructure. There was a joke about the roads in Tel Aviv. It's like the roads are pretty much okay, except that they turn into trouble, particularly in the winter where it's difficult to fix them. Um, and the infrastructure in Tel Aviv is. I think it took over a decade to build the subway. But every big city, because back then it was back then, and when we think about innovation, we don't think about master and slaves all that much. But this is not, how should I say that? I know Israel is fourth house Capricorn, but um, people want their human rights. And there's a lot of challenging in Israel of the Templar notions. People are not into slavery and masters. This is not into, you know, the people that are into that can go into their circles and do that safe, sane, and consensual with themselves. But I said that at the Me Too. I said it today. And this is going to be something that um, people are going to have to accommodate. Either Israelis breaking into two countries, non-Templars and Templars, or something different. Because all of those, this is Arab Hagar, this is, ain't nobody care about, after them is like human being or rapist. That's it. That's the division. Don't look at me like that. Those who live in slaves and masters think that the slaves are not human beings. And they rape the slaves. So um, everybody gets offended, but they don't earn the right to get offended when they do that to slaves. And so those are going to be some challenging 20 years. Because some people see, oh, Israel should expand to its real territory. And I stopped my previous video at something that was beyond creepy to me, which showed literal imperialistic aspirations of Israel to supposedly unite with the great Israel or whatnot, or doesn't usually mean safe housing for people. It, praxis, tachlis, okay? Tachlis is a Hebrew, I don't know if it's even a Hebrew or an Arabic word. Tachlis, housing, food, a work that's not slavery, a work that leaves a place or to travel or to vacate, to have a summer house, education, good education. Not I want working people, not thinking people, education. To know about rare earth minerals, to know about the natural herbs that are growing, to know about how to build a house in a way that doesn't get moldy through the generations. And that's going to create a big polarity because, how should I say that? A while ago, there was an advertisement of a place that wanted to um, offer themselves as a vacay place, and there were a settlement. And the people in the comments are like, well, they forgot to say that this is in Ausland. It's now vacay place is usually when people don't expect to be murdered for the entire family because they're still arguing about the real estate. Lots of issues. Um, and Uranus is still in the eighth house. Is going to ingress to meet Sedna. So last time it did, it was 7th October. I really hope. Um, but the hope of people that people will become more religious, become more this, become more that. How should I say that? People become more skeptical, particularly about religion. Um, because and here is the thing: anything that rises to meet all the shadow sides in order to transmute them. So if there are more brothels trafficking children and women and men in Bnei Brak than civilians, then that need to be abolished before people can, okay, do a Shabbat in Bnei Brak, let's say. Just like when people came back, okay, after what, according to the EU, genocide in Gaza, um, they came back and I see Mama Talibans. I said that's what allowed genocide to happen there, because if women are trafficked, of course there will be genocide. Israel. Kind of creepy to live in a human trafficking based country, knowing that it brings Holocaust, Shoah, genocide, democide, and so on, and being able to broadcast the podcast, maybe it feels kind of having to dissociate from the feeling to speak. And I'm half Dutch, so it's um, as per Netherlands, I think about the Venus Pluto. Yesterday, I saw another case of a person who abused. I think this guy was in his 30s, abused children. I think girls, and this is 8th house for Netherlands, so it looks like that's one of the things that they have been swiping under the rug. Um, and and we're gonna see what happens through Venus going all the way to Aquarius, because it's gonna be a telltale when the eclipse arises that it can't be swiped under the rug anymore. Um, Sun is ingressing to Aquarius tomorrow. Okay, I'm still with that